Now, a call rings, you pick up, only to be met with an unfamiliar voice trying to sell you one thing or another. Your first question is, where did you get my number from? But the consultant possibly has no idea. Maybe they were simply handed a database of names and numbers to call as their daily targets. But this raises serious questions about how our information is roaming around, even in the era of the POPI Act. So let's speak to Tshepo, SABC News economics editor, who is, of course, investigating this particular story. I'm sure a lot of you will welcome this one for us, and just to give us a sense of what exactly is going on here. Tshepo, good evening to you, and thank you so much for your time. A lot of us get so annoyed by these calls, and one wonders, the big question is that we always ask, where did you get our number from?
I think there are two aspects to the issue. The reality is there is a massive trade of leads or people's information, your information. If you go online and you like to buy leads for a call center, you just contact one of many companies online that will provide you with that particular lead, depending on your budget, of course, how much you can afford. You know, you can pay up to 40,000 Rand for leads with a name and a contact of an individual. And basically, call center will have to turn those leads into business. Now,
wait, that sounds like a huge business there.
It is a massive business. I mean, even on Facebook, you can actually go and buy leads. Of course, it's outside the POPI Act, and many of them don't comply to that law. And what we have seen as a trend, of course, is that many of the big companies would simply outsource these functions because they don't want to be bogged down by all this regulation. I mean, the information regulator, the consumer protection, the Consumer Commission, they've been coming hard in terms of that. In fact, the Direct Marketing Association, there've been a lot of areas where they don't agree on in terms of that. Of course, the Direct Marketing Association of South Africa, they've always said that we are advocating for ethical practice, so we don't contact anyone who doesn't consent. But there are also questions around the issue of consent. What some are doing, they would call a person and say, well, someone's going to call you to offer you this product. Do you agree? And you either say, I agree or not agree. This is what you call Section 69 of the POPI Act. It deals with that, but there's no agreement between the regulator and the industry in terms of what exactly is a consent. The reality is, of course, this industry wants to survive. And technology is aiding them. It's not just a South African issue. It's a global. It's a world over issue when it comes to how we're dealing with this issue. But I suppose with a number of people, for example, the debt review in Western Cape and KZN. You have individuals who set up this establishment, some of them not fully regulated, and they start up a small call center. They buy the leads, and then they start calling people if they want to go under debt review, you know. And of course, it's a mess in terms of debt review currently as we speak. And then you either, some of them, they put people on debt review even if they don't want to. So there are a whole lot of issues, but the reality is you have some individual, independent who set up what looks like a call center, and they're able to make money because when you put someone on a debt review, you can make a little bit more money. Whether those people benefit or not, you know, that's not really their issue. So
how is the information regulator dealing with all this? Because I remember here on the show at some point we had a conversation with, you know, Dr. Pensi Kakula, and we're talking about this issue and saying, how do you begin to deal with this? Because this is a huge one, especially because a lot of people are saying there's a whole lot of risks involved if you're going to be able to get my number and my details that easily.
Well, the law exists in terms of how information should flow and how personal information should be protected. But we also know that there other illegal ways that people apply to access people's information and personal information, and they start to trade in that particular information. Now, if it's outside the scope of the current legal framework, it makes it a challenge to enforce. You can easily go to the Direct Marketing Association of South Africa and say, okay, your member is doing this and this, but there are a whole lot of other players outside who are playing outside the scope of the legal framework, who find ways and means to make money, but some of them are somehow linked to indirectly to big companies because they want to make business. So they will use these guys, or these guys will actually get some of the business, turn some of these leads into business, and who benefit? Some big companies also benefit because they get more businesses. So I think, of course, there's a whole lot more that needs to be done, despite just having those the POPI Act in place.
It sounds like a regulator's nightmare.
Absolutely, and really chances are you will get those numbers, those calls, and you will probably continue getting those calls, even if you don't want. Of course, technology is improving in filtering those calls, but they also find other ways of getting back to you and circumventing that technology.
Hey, and sending SMSs and flooding the phones. I wonder then, and this is an important one, Tshepo, so I'm keen to see what your investigation uncovers here, to give us a sense of what are we dealing with, and hopefully catch up with the information regulator to get a sense of where they are and how they begin to deal with the regulator's nightmare. Because if other people are operating outside the space, how do you begin to regulate them? That's Tshepo, the SABC News economics editor.